In this video, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting rational expressions. So let's simplify the following expressions. Now, when you add or subtract rational expressions with unlike denominators, we need to determine the least common denominator first. So let's do that here. So the least common multiple between 3 and 6 is 6. Now, with exponents, whichever exponent has the larger exponential power will be part of my LCD, which in this case, between x squared and x, that'll be x squared. We'll do the same thing with the y's, so that should be y to the 5th. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite this. And underneath, I'm going to write the LCD. Now, what factor am I missing in this denominator that's in my LCD here? Well, a 2, and I'm missing a y. So I need to multiply the top and the bottom by 2y. We do that because when you multiply by 1, nothing changes. 2y times 7 is 14y. Now, what factor am I missing in this denominator that is in my LCD here? Well, that's x. So I got to multiply the top and the bottom by x. Again, you're multiplying by 1, nothing changes. 5 times x is 5x. Now that my denominators are the same, I can rewrite it as one fraction. I can't factor the numerator any further. I can't divide out any common factors, and we're done here. Okay, let's take a look at the next example then. So again, we are adding two unlike denominators here. So again, we need to determine what the least common denominator is going to be first. Well, again, they have absolutely no factors in common, so what do? We'll just multiply the denominators. So my LCD here is x times x plus 2. All right, so again, I will rewrite. And then I will write underneath with the LCD being the new denominator. Okay, what factor am I missing here that's in my LCD here? Well, that's x plus 2. I need to multiply the top and the bottom by x plus 2. Now, you're taking a binomial times a monomial, so we're going to distribute. That's 3x plus 6. Now, what factor am I missing here that's in my LCD here? Well, that's an x, so I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by x. 5 times x is 5x. I can rewrite this as 1. (3x plus 5x), that is 8x plus 6 over the denominator. Now, I will factor out a 2 from the numerator. There's no common factors I can divide out, so you can either have this answer or this answer. But you always want to factor the numerator to see eventually if any factors would divide out from both the numerator and the denominator. Okay, let's take a look at the next example then. Okay, so again, we are subtracting two fractions. We need to determine what the least common denominator is. But before we do that, there is some factoring that needs to be involved here. Now, x plus 4, I can't factor that any further, so I'll just rewrite again x plus 4. Now, x squared minus 16, that's a difference of 2 squares. Well, that breaks down to x plus 4 times x minus 4. So, the least common denominator here is the x plus 4 they have in common times the other factor of x minus 4 here. Okay, so again, I will rewrite. And instead of x squared minus 16, I'm going to write x plus 4 and x minus 4. Okay, so now let's write with the LCD. Okay, what factor am I missing here that's in my LCD here? Well, that's x minus 4. Similarly to the last example, we have a monomial times a binomial, so I need to distribute. Now, what factor am I missing in this denominator that is in my LCD here? Well, that's nothing. If you want, you could multiply the top and the bottom by 1, but when you multiply by 1, nothing changes. Okay, so I can rewrite this as 1 fraction. Now be careful, you are subtracting the entire quantity of 3 plus x. So in my next step, I'm going to distribute the negative to both terms. So I'll do that here. Can combine like terms here and here. Now, there are no factors in negative 3 that add up to be negative 5. There's no greatest common factor I can take out of all the terms in the numerator other than 1, so it's not factorable. So there are no common factors I can divide out, and we're done here. Okay, let's take a look at the next example then. So again, we're adding two fractions with different denominators. So the first thing I need to do is determine what the LCD is going to be. But I better factor first. Well, 1 minus n. I can't factor any further. N squared minus 1 I can factor as n plus 1 times n minus 1. Now, my least common denominator, well, will be the n plus 1 times n minus 1. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite now. But notice 1 minus n. Well, 1 minus n is the same thing as negative 1 times n minus 1. And we can show very quickly. So what I will do for this is I will put negative 1 times n minus 1, because I used n minus 1 as part of my least common denominator here. And again, I'll rewrite n squared minus 1 as n plus 1 and n minus 1. Okay, now I'm going to put this negative on the top. And now I'm going to rewrite my two fractions using the least common denominator. So what factor am I missing here that is in my LCD here? Well, that's n plus 1. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by n plus 1. So again, I got to distribute. All right, what factor am I missing in this denominator that's in my LCD here? Well, nothing, so I'm just going to rewrite the numerator the same. Okay, because now the denominators are the same, I can rewrite this as 1 fraction. Okay, so there's no greatest common factor I can take out of the 3 terms in the numerator other than 1. And there are no factors in negative 10 that add up to be negative 2. That means a numerator cannot be factored further, which means I can't divide out any common factors from the top and the bottom here. So we're done.